In the quiet little town of Willow Creek back in the summer of 1968, the sun hung high and warm over the dusty main street. Just like it had for generations, folks went about their days with the familiar rhythm of life, men tipping their hats, women chatting over picket fences, and children chasing each other through the fields. Beyond the church, steeple Anna Thompson was 22 years old, then a gentle soul with soft brown curls and eyes that carried the kindness her mother had taught her from the cradle. She wore simple cotton dresses and helped at the general store owned by her widowed father, Harold, a 955, a man respected in town for his steady ways and his strong beliefs. Harold had raised Eleanor alone after her mother passed when she was just a girl. He loved her fiercely, perhaps too fiercely in the way fathers sometimes do when the world feels too big and too harsh. He wanted to protect her from every hurt, every wrong turn. One evening Eleanor met a young man named Tommy Riley at the county fair. Tommy had come from the next town over with his easy smile and his guitar. He played old Hank Williams songs under the string lights, and Eleanor felt her heart open like a flower in spring. They danced and laughed, and before long they were meeting in secret by the old willow tree, sharing dreams of a life together. But Harold found out he saw Tommy as trouble, a boy with no steady job, no family name in Willow Creek, just a wanderer with big ideas. Harold forbade Eleanor from seeing him again, but love in the young is stubborn and true. Eleanor kept meeting Tommy, her heart full of hope. When Harold discovered letters hidden under her mattress, his anger rose like a storm. He felt betrayed, not just by Eleanor, but by the idea that his only daughter might slip away into a life he could not control. In those days, folks in small towns held tight to reputation, and Harold believed Eleanor's choices reflected on him, on the family name. Next Sunday after church, Harold made a choice that would change everything. He marched Eleanor to the center of town, right there on the wooden platform where they held the 4th of July speeches. The whole town gathered, curious at first, then hushed. As Harold spoke with a voice shaking but firm, he told them Eleanor had brought shame on the family by running around with that no-good Riley boy. He said she needed to learn a lesson the old way so everyone would see and remember. He had a bucket of water from the horse trough, and before anyone could quite understand, he poured it over her head, soaking her Sunday dress until it clung to her like a second skin. Eleanor stood there, trembling, tears streaming down her face, mixing with the water. She did not scream, she did not fight, she just cried softly, her shoulders shaking as the townsfolk watched in stunned silence. Some turned away uncomfortable, others whispered behind hands. Harold stood behind her, his hands on her shoulders, not rough but firm, as if holding her up and holding her there all at once. The air smelled of dust and lilacs from the nearby bushes. The sun warmed the wet fabric on her skin, but inside Eleanor felt cold and small. She thought of her mother's gentle hands, braiding her hair, of the way life used to feel safe and sure. Now everything seemed broken. Old Mrs. Henderson, who had known Eleanor since she was born, felt her own eyes filled with tears. She remembered her own youth, remembered choices that hurt but taught. Mr. Jenkins, the blacksmith, shifted from foot to foot, wishing he could say something, anything to stop this, but words stuck in his throat. Billy Carter, a boy of 12 who adored Eleanor from afar, felt a lump in his own throat. He wanted to run to her with a towel, but fear kept him rooted, and there in the middle of it all, Eleanor cried, not with anger but with a deep sadness that comes when love and duty clash like thunder. Harold watched her tears, and something inside him cracked. He had thought this public lesson would fix things, make her see, make her town respect him again, but seeing his daughter so small and soaked and sorrowful, he felt only ucked. For minutes stretched long and quiet, broken only by Eleanor's soft sobs and the distant whinny of a horse tied to a post. Then slowly, one by one, folks began to move. First it was Mrs. Henderson. She stepped forward with her lace handkerchief and gently dabbed at Eleanor's cheeks, whispering, there, child, it's all right. Now then, Mr. Ellis, the baker, took off his own jacket and draped it over Eleanor's shoulders to cover the wet dress. Young Billy ran to the store and came back with a dry shawl his mother kept for customers, one after another. The people of Willow Creek, we showed kindness not with grand speeches but with quiet acts. A hand on her arm, a soft word, a shared look of understanding. Harold stood frozen, his hands still on her shoulders but lighter now as he watched his neighbors, his friends, wrap his daughter in warmth. When the sheriff finally approached, not to scold but to offer his arm to walk Eleanor home, Harold let go. That evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in pinks and golds, Harold sat on the porch with Eleanor wrapped in a quilt, her hair still damp but her tears dried. He did not speak for a long while. Then softly he said, Eleanor, I thought I was protecting you, but I see now I was only hurting us both. Forgive me, darling. Eleanor looked at her father, his face lined with years of hard work and loneliness, and she saw not the stern man from the platform but the father who had rocked her to sleep after nightmares, who had worked double shifts to keep food on the table. She leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, I already to have path. Next day, Harold did the unthinkable in the eyes of many. He went to Tommy Riley himself at the gas station where he worked. Harold stood tall, but his voice was gentle when he said, Son, I've been a fool. Come to supper tonight. Let's talk. Like men, Tommy came, eyes wary but hopeful, and over plates of fried chicken and cornbread, the three of them talked real talk about dreams and responsibilities, about love and letting go. Harold listened more than he spoke. He heard Tommy's plans too. Settle down to build a life, and he saw the way Eleanor lit up like Christmas morning when Tommy was nearby. The end of the evening, Harold shook Tommy's hand and said, "Welcome to the family, son." In the weeks that followed, Willow Creek buzzed with the story, but not with judgment, with wonder at how kindness had turned a hard moment into something healing. Eleanor and Tommy married the next spring in the little white church with wildflowers in her hair, and Harold walked her down the aisle, his eyes misty but proud. Years later, when folks sat on porches, rocking slowly, telling stories to grandchildren, they would speak of that day in the square, not as a time of shame, but as the day the town chose kindness, the day a father chose love over pride. And Eleanor, now gray-haired herself, would smile softly and say, "Sometimes the hardest moments teach us the gentlest lessons. Sometimes the unthinkable choice is the one that opens the heart. Life has a way of softening the sharp edges if we let it. We learn as the years go by that no one is perfect, that mistakes are part of being human, but kindness, real quiet kindness, can heal what words never couldn't." The end. Harold lived to hold his first grandchild, a little girl with Eleanor's eyes and Tommy's smile, and on quiet evenings he would rock her on the same porch, telling her, "You are loved just as you are. No need for lessons in the square, only lessons in the square, only lessons in the heart." And the willow tree by the creek still stands, its branches trailing in the water, whispering that love given freely is the strongest kind of all. Take your time with these memories, friends. Let them settle gentle like evening rain. We have all known hard days and harder choices, but we have also known the warmth of a hand reached out, the quiet power of forgiveness. That's the real story of Willow Creek, not the wet dress or the tears in the square, but the dry shawl offered, the supper shared, the family built on understanding. May we all choose that kind of unthinkable, the kind that leads to kindness, and may peace settle over you now like a soft quilt on a cool autumn night. Rest easy knowing tomorrow brings another chance to be gentle with each other and with ourselves. Good night.